I returned from surgery to find my wife unconscious on our kitchen floor. I'm Robert Powell, and that was just the beginning of the worst day of my life. The triple bypass surgery had left me weak, barely able to walk without assistance. I'd been in the hospital for 3 days, trusting my son Michael to take care of everything at home. When I finally made it through our front door Thursday morning, the house was silent. Too silent. I called for Margaret. Nothing. I found her collapsed beside the kitchen counter, her heart monitor screaming warnings. While paramedics worked on my unconscious wife, I grabbed Michael's phone to call our doctor. That's when I saw it. His latest social media post. Finally free from my pathetic old folks. Posted 20 minutes after Margaret collapsed. Hundreds of likes already. My son wasn't just neglecting us. He was celebrating our destruction. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Let me tell you how that post cost Michael $2.8 million. The weakness started the moment they wheeled me out of surgery on November 4th. Triple bypass. 72 hours under anesthesia. My chest felt like someone had taken a crowbar to my rib cage. The doctors said 6 weeks minimum before I could lift anything heavier than a coffee cup. For a man who'd spent decades carrying the weight of family responsibility, suddenly I couldn't even carry myself to the bathroom without help. That's when Michael swooped in. "Don't worry, Dad, I'll take care of everything." Those words should have comforted me. Instead, they made my skin crawl. Michael hadn't visited us in 8 months. Suddenly, he was sleeping in our guest room, answering our phone, sorting through our mail, acting like the devoted son he'd never been. The first red flag came Tuesday morning. I was propped up in my recliner, still dizzy from the pain medication, when I heard Michael on the phone in the kitchen. "Yeah, the old man's completely out of it. Barely knows what day it is." I knew exactly what day it was. November 5th, the day Michael thought I was too weak to matter. But I wasn't weak. I was gathering evidence. See, Michael didn't know about the Sony digital recorder I kept in my shirt pocket. 32 years of teaching had taught me one thing. Always document everything. Students lie. Administrators lie. And apparently, sons lie too. By Wednesday, I'd recorded 14 hours of Michael's phone conversations. Here's what I learned. My son had $320,000 in gambling debts. He'd been visiting Cherokee Casino, Golden Gates Casino, and Blackhawk for 6 months straight. His real estate business was hemorrhaging money, and he needed our inheritance immediately. Our estate was worth $2.8 million. The house alone was appraised at $850,000. Michael knew these numbers because he'd been rifling through our financial documents every night while Margaret and I slept. But there was something else in those recordings, something that made my blood freeze. "The timeline's perfect," Michael told someone on Thursday night. "Dad's weak as hell. Mom's been having those dizzy spells since his surgery. Doctor said the stress could trigger anything, stroke, heart attack, whatever. Nature just needs a little assistance." I sat in that chair, listening to my son plan our deaths. The medical power of attorney documents appeared Friday morning. Michael spread them across our dining room table like he was dealing cards. "Just a precaution, Dad, in case something happens and you can't make decisions." His pen was already out. The signature lines were highlighted in yellow. I stared at those documents for a long time. Michael fidgeted. He checked his phone twice. His leg bounced under the table like a nervous teenager. "I need to read these first," I said. "Dad, they're standard forms. Dr. Williams recommended them." Dr. Williams had recommended no such thing. I'd called her office that morning. "I'll review them with my attorney." Michael's jaw tightened. "You don't trust your own son?" "I don't sign legal documents without reading them." That's when I saw it. The flash of pure hatred in Michael's eyes. Not disappointment. Not hurt. Hatred. "Fine. Take your time, old man." Old man. Not Dad. Not even Robert. Old man. He stormed out of the room, leaving the unsigned papers behind. I photographed every page with my phone. The documents weren't standard at all. They gave Michael complete authority over our medical decisions, our finances, our lives. But Michael made one crucial mistake. He underestimated exactly how much this old man still knew about the law. And he had no idea I had been planning my own strategy since the day he walked through our door. Saturday morning brought clarity I didn't want. Margaret collapsed while making coffee. I found her on the kitchen floor at 6:15 a.m., unconscious, her Medtronic heart monitor beeping frantically. The $15,000 device we'd bought after her mild heart episode last year was screaming warnings. Michael's reaction told me everything. He stood in the doorway for 3 full seconds before moving, not running to help, not calling 911 immediately, just standing there, calculating. "Should I call an ambulance?" he asked. Should I? Like it was a business decision. "Call them now!" I shouted, dropping to my knees beside Margaret despite the stabbing pain in my chest. While the paramedics worked on my wife, I noticed something. Margaret's pill organizer was empty. The metoprolol she'd been taking for blood pressure regulation, gone. The bottle sat open on the counter, but Friday's dose was still inside. Michael had hidden her medication. The hospital kept Margaret for observation. Stroke risk, they said. Stress-induced cardiac episode. She'd be fine with proper medication management, but she needed constant monitoring for 72 hours. That left me alone with Michael. "Good thing I'm here to take care of you," he said, settling into Margaret's chair like he owned it. I excused myself and called my attorney. Sarah Chen had handled our estate planning for 15 years. She was sharp, thorough, and most importantly, she understood family dynamics. When I explained the situation, her voice turned professional. "Robert, are you saying you suspect elder abuse?" "I'm saying my son has $320,000 in gambling debts and access to $2.8 million in assets. You do the math." "Where are you now?" "Home, alone with him." "Keep recording everything. I'm calling Adult Protective Services." "No, not yet." Sarah paused. "Robert, if you're in danger, I'm not in immediate physical danger. But if I die tomorrow, Michael inherits everything. If Margaret dies, Michael inherits everything. If we both die, Michael gets everything and walks away clean." "What do you want to do?" "I want to change our will. Completely. Today." "That's significant. Are you sure?" I thought about Margaret unconscious on that floor. I thought about Michael's calculating pause. I thought about 32 years of teaching young people about ethics, responsibility, and consequences. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Sarah's voice softened. "What did you have in mind?" "A charitable foundation, the Powell Family Educational Trust, full funding from our estate." "All of it?" "Every penny. Michael gets nothing." Silence on the line. Then, "I can have the paperwork ready by Monday. But Robert, once you sign those documents, there's no going back. Michael will contest it." "Let him try. I've got 14 hours of recordings and documented evidence of medical neglect, plus whatever else he's stupid enough to do this weekend." "What if he finds out?" "He won't. Michael thinks I'm a dying old man who can't tie his shoes. He has no idea he's been talking to someone who spent 3 decades teaching estate law." That night, Michael made his biggest mistake yet. He brought friends over. 3 guys from his poker group, drinking beer in my living room while my wife lay in the hospital. They talked freely, assuming I was asleep in my chair. "Once the old folks are out of the picture, this place is mine," Michael announced. "Prime real estate. I'm thinking of flipping it." "What about your parents?" one friend asked. Michael shrugged. "Dad's got maybe 6 months. Mom won't last long after that. Stress, you know? These things happen." I kept recording. By Sunday night, I had enough evidence to bury my son in civil and criminal court, but I wanted something more satisfying than legal proceedings. I wanted Michael to experience exactly what it felt like to lose everything you thought you deserved. Monday morning, November 11th, Veterans Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. A day honoring those who fought for their country, and I was preparing to fight for my family. Michael sat at our kitchen table, paperwork spread everywhere. Not the medical power of attorney. Those were tucked away after I'd refused to sign. These were different documents. Life insurance policies, investment statements, property deeds, all with Michael's name scribbled in the margins. "Making plans?" I asked, settling into the chair across from him. Just organizing your affairs, Dad, making sure everything's in order. How thoughtful. Michael's pen hovered over a bank signature card. I added myself to your checking account for emergencies. Without asking me? You were sleeping, I figured. You figured wrong. His hand stopped moving. For the first time since he'd arrived, Michael looked directly at me. Really looked. Like he was seeing something he hadn't expected. Dad, you're not thinking clearly. The medication... My mind is perfectly clear, Michael. Is it? Because Margaret's in the hospital and you can barely walk to the mailbox. Margaret's in the hospital because someone hid her blood pressure medication. Silence. The kind that fills a room like smoke. Michael's face went carefully blank. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime. You think Dad, that's paranoid. You're imagining things. Am I imagining the $320,000 you owe to Cherokee Casino? Michael's pen clattered to the table. How do you know about that? Same way I know about Golden Gates. Same way I know about Blackhawk. Same way I know exactly how much our estate is worth and exactly how much you need. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let me refresh your memory. I pulled out my Sony recorder and set it on the table between us. Michael stared at it like I'd placed a loaded gun. 14 hours, Michael. 14 hours of you planning our deaths. You can't record private conversations. In Colorado, I can record any conversation I'm party to. I taught communications law, remember? Michael's face flushed red. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself. From you. He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. I'm trying to help you. By stealing Margaret's medication? By forging medical power of attorney documents? Those weren't forged. Dr. Williams never recommended them. I called her office. Michael's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then his expression hardened into something ugly. Fine, you caught me. So what? There it was, the mask slipping completely off. So what? I repeated. Yeah, so what? You're dying anyway. Margaret's one fall away from a nursing home. I'm your only child. Everything comes to me eventually. Eventually wasn't fast enough? I have debts, Dad. Real debts. To people who don't send polite reminder notices. That's not my problem. Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. Not your problem? I'm your son. My son wouldn't try to murder his parents for gambling money. Murder? Michael's voice went shrill. I never said anything about murder. Nature just needs a little assistance. Your words, Michael, from Thursday night's phone call. His face went white. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Explain it to me. These people don't wait for probate court. They don't care about inheritance timelines. They want their money now. Then you should have thought about that before you gambled it away. I didn't gamble it away. I invested it. The real estate market was supposed to recover. With money you didn't have. With money I was going to inherit. Money you were never guaranteed. Michael slammed his hand on the table. Guaranteed? I'm your only child. Who else would you leave it to? Someone who deserves it. I deserve it. I've put up with you and Mom for 43 years. Put up with us? Yes. The lectures. The disappointment. The constant judgment. Do you know what it's like being the son of Robert Powell? Perfect grades weren't good enough. Perfect behavior wasn't good enough. Nothing was ever good enough. So you decided to kill us. I decided to stop waiting for your approval. The words hung between us like a confession. I stood up slowly, my chest still aching from surgery, but my resolve stronger than ever. Michael, I want you out of this house in 1 hour. You can't throw me out. You're sick. I'm calling the police if you're not gone. And with what proof? Some recordings? Good luck with that. We'll see. Michael's eyes narrowed. You know what your problem is, Dad. You think you're still in control, but you're not. You're a sick old man who can't even take care of his wife. He walked to the door, then turned back. Enjoy your last few months, because when you're gone, I'm still going to get everything. The door slammed behind him, but Michael was wrong about one thing. I was very much still in control. Michael left, but he didn't go far. Tuesday morning, I spotted his car parked across the street. Wednesday, he was at the corner coffee shop, laptop open, watching our house through the window. Thursday, Margaret came home from the hospital, and Michael appeared at our door within an hour. "Just checking on Mom," he said, all concern and family devotion. Margaret was still weak, still confused about what had happened. The doctors said memory gaps were normal after cardiac episodes. She didn't remember the missing medication. She didn't remember collapsing. She just remembered waking up in the hospital with Michael holding her hand. "He's been so helpful," she told me that evening, "staying with us, taking care of everything." I didn't tell her about the recordings. Not yet. Margaret's heart couldn't handle that kind of shock. But while Michael played the devoted son, I was making other calls. Thursday afternoon. "Sarah, it's Robert. Are the documents ready?" "Signed and notarized. The Powell Family Educational Trust is officially established. $2.8 million to fund scholarships for underprivileged students studying business law." "And Michael's inheritance?" "Zero. He's not mentioned anywhere in the new will." "What about contestation?" "He can try. But with the evidence you provided, any judge will uphold your decision. Elder abuse invalidates inheritance claims in Colorado." "Good. Now I need you to call Dr. Patricia Williams. She needs to know what we're dealing with." Friday morning. "Dr. Williams, this is Robert Powell. We need to discuss my son's behavior toward my wife." "Mr. Powell, I can't discuss patient information over the phone. I'm not asking you to break confidentiality. I'm asking you to document what I'm about to tell you." 20 minutes later, Dr. Williams had a complete picture of Michael's medication tampering. She also had copies of my recordings and instructions to flag any future medical decisions involving my son. Friday afternoon, James Morrison, Hospital Social Services, Sarah Chen referred me. "Mr. Morrison, I need someone from your office present at our next family meeting." "What kind of meeting?" "The kind where my son discovers he's not getting what he expected." But the most important call came Friday evening. "Channel 7 News, this is Robert Powell. I'd like to speak to someone about a charity announcement." "What kind of announcement, sir?" "A retired business professor establishing a $2.8 million educational foundation, local interest story." "When would you like to make this public?" "Monday morning. I'll have all the details ready." Saturday, Michael made his move. He showed up with a different set of papers. "Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe we should sell the house. Move you and Mom somewhere with better medical care." The papers were real estate contracts. Michael had already been in touch with 3 different agents. "You want to sell our home?" "I want what's best for you. This place is too big, too hard to maintain. There's a nice assisted living facility in Lakewood. We're not moving." "Dad, be realistic. You can't take care of Mom anymore. You can barely take care of yourself." "I can take care of my family just fine." "Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're in denial about your limitations." Michael spread architectural plans across the coffee table. "I've been thinking about this property's potential. Great location, mature neighborhood. With some renovation, this place could be worth over $1 million. "Whose renovation?" "Mine, obviously. When the time comes." "When the time comes?" Michael's patience was wearing thin. "Dad, you're 69 years old. You just had major surgery. Mom's having cardiac episodes. How much time do you think you have left?" "More than you'd like." "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." I stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were copies of every document Sarah had prepared, every recording transcript, every piece of evidence I'd collected. "Michael, there's something I need to tell you about your inheritance." "What about it?" I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. "Monday morning, you're going to learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness." Monday morning, November 18th. The showdown I'd been planning for 2 weeks. Margaret was strong enough to attend. Dr. Williams had cleared her for light activity, and I needed her there. Not just as a witness, but as a reminder of exactly what Michael had put at risk. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at Sarah Chen's law office. I told Michael it was a routine estate review. "Just updating some paperwork," I'd said. "Nothing major." He'd agreed immediately, probably thinking this was his chance to push through those medical power of attorney forms. Sarah's office occupied the 3rd floor of a downtown Denver building. Mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling law books, her Colorado Bar Association certificate prominently displayed, the kind of setting that made legal decisions feel permanent. Michael arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in his best suit, carrying a leather briefcase like he was closing a major deal. Margaret and I were already seated when he walked in. "Morning, Dad, Mom." He kissed Margaret's cheek, the picture of a caring son. "Michael," Sarah acknowledged him with professional courtesy. "Please have a seat." He settled into the chair across from us, briefcase at his feet, confident smile in place. "So, what are we reviewing today?" "Your father's estate plan," Sarah replied. "Some significant changes have been made." "Changes?" Michael's smile flickered. "What kind of changes?" "The kind that reflect recent circumstances," I said. Sarah opened a thick file folder. "Michael, are you familiar with the Powell Family Educational Trust?" "No. Should I be?" "It was established last Monday, November 11th. "Established for what?" "To receive the entirety of your father's estate upon his death." The silence in that room was absolute. Michael's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, then growing alarm. "I'm sorry, what?" "The trust will fund scholarships for underprivileged students studying business law. Full tuition, books, living expenses. Your father estimates it will help approximately 60 students over the next 20 years. "Wait." Michael held up his hand. "Wait. What about family inheritance?" "There is no family inheritance," Sarah said simply. Michael turned to me. "Dad, this is a joke, right? You're trying to scare me?" "I'm trying to teach you about consequences." "Consequences for what?" Before I could answer, the office door opened. Dr. Patricia Williams walked in, followed by James Morrison from Hospital Social Services. I'd asked them to arrive at 10:15 precisely. "What's going on?" Michael's voice rose. "Who are these people?" "Dr. Williams, Mr. Morrison," Sarah said. "Thank you for coming. We're just discussing the circumstances that led to Mr. Powell's decision to disinherit his son." "Disinherit?" Michael shot to his feet. "You can't disinherit me. I'm your only child." "Sit down, Michael," I said quietly. "I will not sit down. This is insane. You can't give away my inheritance." "It was never your inheritance." "Of course it was. Who else would inherit from you?" Dr. Williams cleared her throat. "Mr. Powell, perhaps we should review the medical evidence." "Medical evidence?" Michael's face had gone pale. "The evidence showing deliberate medication tampering," Dr. Williams continued. "Your mother's metoprolol was consistently removed from her daily pill organizer during your stay in their home." That's ridiculous. I never touched her medication." "We also have documentation of forged medical power of attorney forms," James Morrison added. "Forms that would have given you authority over both your parents' medical decisions." Michael's jaw worked soundlessly for several seconds. Then, "This is a setup. You're all conspiring against me." "Michael," I said, pulling out my digital recorder, "would you like to hear yourself planning our deaths?" I pressed play. Michael's voice filled the room. "The timeline's perfect. Dad's weak as hell. Mom's been having those dizzy spells since his surgery. Doctor said the stress could trigger anything, stroke, heart attack, whatever. Nature just needs a little assistance." Margaret gasped. It was the first time she'd heard the recording. Michael stared at the device like it was a venomous snake. "That's taken out of context." "Is it?" I pressed play again. "Once the old folks are out of the picture, this place is mine. Prime real estate. I'm thinking of flipping it." "Stop," Michael whispered. "What about your parents?" came a voice from the recording. "Dad's got maybe 6 months. Mom won't last long after that. Stress, these things happen." I turned off the recorder. 14 hours total, Michael. 14 hours of you planning how to spend our money after we were dead. Margaret was crying now, quiet tears that made me want to hold her and rage at Michael simultaneously. "Mom," Michael said, reaching toward her. "Mom, I never meant—" "Don't." Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. "Don't touch me." Michael's hand froze in midair. "Mrs. Powell," Dr. Williams said gently, "we have counseling services available for families dealing with elder abuse." "Elder abuse?" Michael's voice cracked. "This isn't abuse. I'm trying to help them." "By hiding her medication?" James Morrison asked. "By planning their deaths?" Dr. Williams added. By forging legal documents? Sarah concluded. Michael looked around the room, at Margaret's tears, at the social worker's notepad, at the doctor's disappointed expression, at the lawyer's stack of evidence. Finally, his gaze settled on me. You did this, he said. You orchestrated this whole thing. I documented your behavior. You set me up. I gave you rope. You hanged yourself. This isn't over, Michael said, grabbing his briefcase. I'll contest the will. I'll sue for elder abuse. You'll what? Sarah interrupted. Present evidence that contradicts 14 hours of recordings? Explain away medical tampering? Justify forged documents? Michael's mouth opened and closed. Michael, I said, standing up slowly, you have two choices. Walk away quietly or face criminal charges for attempted elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. You're bluffing. James, I said, turning to the social worker, please explain Colorado's elder abuse statutes. But Michael was already heading for the door. This isn't over, he repeated. Yes, I said, it is. The door slammed behind him. After Michael left, the room felt lighter. Margaret wiped her eyes and looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. Pride. How long have you been planning this? She asked. Since the day he walked through our door, I admitted. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Robert, I have to ask, are you sure about the complete disinheritance? It's an extreme measure. Extreme situations require extreme measures. Dr. Williams opened her notepad. From a medical perspective, what Michael did constitutes criminal neglect. Withholding prescribed medication from a cardiac patient could have killed Margaret. Could have? I looked at her sharply. Robert, if Margaret had suffered a major cardiac episode without her blood pressure medication, the outcome could have been fatal. Michael wasn't just gambling with money, he was gambling with your wife's life. The weight of that statement settled over us. James Morrison spoke up. I need to file an official report with Adult Protective Services. Even if you don't press criminal charges, this needs to be documented. I want it documented, I said. Everything. Sarah opened another folder. There's something else, Robert. Channel 7 News called this morning. They want to interview you about the Foundation establishment. Perfect timing. They're particularly interested in the story behind it. The reporter asked specifically about your motivation for creating such a large educational endowment. Margaret looked puzzled. You talk to reporters? I called them Friday. A $2.8 million charitable foundation is news, especially when it's established by a retired teacher. You're going public with this? Michael needs to understand that his actions have consequences beyond just losing his inheritance. The whole community is going to know what he tried to do. Sarah pulled out a fresh document. Speaking of the foundation, I need to go over the specifics with you. The Powell Family Educational Trust will be administered by the University of Colorado Denver Business School. They'll select recipients based on financial need and academic merit. What are the criteria? First-generation college students studying business law or business ethics, students who've overcome significant obstacles, students who understand the value of education because it wasn't handed to them. Perfect. Margaret reached for my hand. Robert, this is beautiful. But are you sure? $2.8 million is exactly the amount Michael thought he deserved for planning our deaths. Dr. Williams closed her notepad. I have to ask, what happens if Michael tries to contact you again? He won't. How can you be sure? I smiled. Because Michael just learned something important about his old man. What's that? That I'm not the weak, confused pensioner he thought I was. I'm a business law professor with 32 years of experience teaching students exactly how to handle people like him. Sarah shuffled through her papers. Robert, there's one more thing. The recordings you made, they're admissible evidence if Michael tries to challenge the will or if criminal charges are filed. Criminal charges? James Morrison answered. Elder abuse, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. Colorado takes these cases very seriously. I don't want Michael in prison, I said. I want him to live with the consequences of his choices. Even if that means he continues to struggle with his gambling debts? Especially then. Prison would be too easy. Michael needs to face the people he owes money to without our inheritance to bail him out. Margaret squeezed my hand. That's harsh, Robert. He planned to kill us for money, Margaret. Harsh is appropriate. The office door opened, and a young woman in a business suit entered. Mr. Powell, I'm Jennifer Hayes from Channel 7 News. Are you ready for our interview? I looked around the room, at Sarah with her legal documents, at Dr. Beer, Williams with her medical evidence, at James with his social services report, at Margaret with her new understanding of what our son had become. I'm ready. Jennifer set up a small recording device on Sarah's desk. Mr. Powell, can you tell us about the Powell Family Educational Trust? The trust represents every dollar my wife and I saved over 40 years of teaching. We believe education should be available to students who value it, not inherited by family members who see it as an entitlement. What inspired you to create this foundation? I looked directly into her recording device. My son recently taught me an important lesson about the difference between family and blood relatives. Family members care about your welfare. Blood relatives sometimes only care about your will. That's a significant distinction. Recent events in our household made that distinction very clear. Can you elaborate? My son attempted to accelerate his inheritance through medical neglect and fraud. When that failed, he began planning more direct intervention. Jennifer's eyes widened. More direct intervention? I have 14 hours of recorded conversations in which my son discusses the most efficient ways to expedite my wife's and my deaths. You recorded your own son planning your murders? I recorded my son revealing his true character. What was your reaction to discovering this? As an educator, I saw a teaching opportunity. Actions have consequences. Michael wanted our money without earning it. Now he gets to learn what it means to earn everything from scratch. The foundation will prevent him from inheriting anything? The foundation will ensure that our life's work benefits students who understand the value of education, rather than someone who saw it as an obstacle to wealth. Margaret spoke up. Our money will help 60 students over 20 years. Students who've worked for their opportunities. Students who appreciate what they've been given. And your son? I met the recorder's microphone directly. Our son will have the opportunity to become the person he should have been all along. Someone who works for what he gets. Someone who understands that respect isn't inherited. Jennifer looked fascinated. This is quite a story, Mr. Powell. When will the foundation begin operations? Immediately. The University of Colorado Denver will begin accepting scholarship applications next month. The first students will be funded for the spring semester. And your son? Have you spoken to him about this decision? My son learned about his disinheritance this morning in this office, surrounded by the evidence of his attempted crimes. What was his reaction? Denial, anger, threats to contest the will. Will he be successful? Sarah leaned into the microphone. Elder abuse invalidates inheritance claims in Colorado. Mr. Powell's evidence is comprehensive and damning. Jennifer turned off her recorder. This will air tonight on the 6 o'clock news. Good, I said. Michael needs to understand that his actions weren't just a private family matter. The whole community deserves to know what he's capable of. Margaret looked concerned. Robert, isn't that vindictive? No, Margaret. It's educational. Michael spent weeks assuming no one would ever know what he was planning. Now, everyone will know exactly who he really is. Dr. Williams gathered her papers. I should warn you, Michael might become desperate when this story goes public. Let him, I said. Desperate people make mistakes, and I'll be recording those too. The Channel 7 story aired that evening at 6 p.m. Margaret and I watched from our living room, the same room where Michael had spread out his inheritance plans just days earlier. The reporter presented our story with remarkable thoroughness. The foundation details, the inheritance, disinheritance, even excerpts from Michael's recorded conversations. Tonight at 6, local professor establishes major educational foundation after discovering son's plot to murder him for inheritance money. The exclusive story of how $2.8 million became a lesson in consequences. Jennifer Hayes had done her homework. The story included interviews with University of Colorado Denver administrators, details about scholarship criteria, and even preliminary sketches of students who might benefit from the foundation. Then came the recordings. Michael's voice filled our living room through the television speakers. "Once the old folks are out of the picture, this place is mine." Margaret flinched. Even knowing what was coming, hearing our son's words on television made them feel more real, more devastating. My phone started ringing before the story finished. "Robert Powell, this is David Martinez from the Denver Post. We'd like to do a follow-up story about your foundation." "What kind of follow-up?" "Human interest piece. Local educator turns family betrayal into community benefit. When can we schedule an interview?" By 8 p.m., I'd received calls from 3 newspapers, 2 radio stations, and a blogger who specialized in elder abuse awareness. The story was spreading beyond local news. At 8:30, Margaret's phone rang. "Margaret Powell, this is Dr. Susan Rodriguez, Dean of Students at University of Colorado, Denver. I wanted to personally thank you and your husband for this incredible gift. Dr. Rodriguez, we're honored to help students. Mrs. Powell, we've already received 47 preliminary scholarship inquiries since the news story aired. Students who've heard about the foundation want to know more about the application process." 47 students in 2 hours? Word travels fast among students who are struggling to pay for education. Your foundation represents hope for dozens of young people who thought college was financially impossible. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, happy tears this time. "Dr. Rodriguez," I said, taking the phone, "what's the timeline for the first scholarship awards?" "We can fast-track qualified applications for spring semester. If students apply by December 1st, they could receive funding for January classes." "Perfect. How many students could we support for spring?" "Based on current tuition rates and living expenses, probably 8 to 10 full scholarships for the spring semester." "Let's do 12. 12? Mr. Powell, that's very generous, but Dr. Rodriguez, my wife and I saved that money over 40 years. We'd rather see it used immediately to help students than sit in an account earning interest." After we hung up, Margaret and I sat in comfortable silence for several minutes. "Robert," she finally said, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For turning something horrible into something beautiful." At 9:15, my phone rang again. Unknown number. "Dad?" Michael's voice, strained, desperate. "Michael, I just saw the news. And?" "You humiliated me on television." "I told the truth on television. The whole city knows about my gambling debts now, about the recordings, about everything." "Good. Good? Dad, I'm ruined. My business, my reputation, my credit. Your choices, your consequences. You can't just destroy my life. I didn't destroy your life, Michael. You did that when you decided to plan our deaths for money." Silence on the line. "Dad, I'm desperate. These people I owe money to, they're not going to wait for me to figure this out." "Then you'd better start figuring it out quickly. Can't we work something out? Some kind of payment plan from the inheritance?" "There is no inheritance, Michael. It's gone. All of it. To students who actually deserve it. Those students don't deserve our family money. Those students aren't planning to murder their professors for scholarship funds. I never actually hurt you or Mom." "You hid Margaret's heart medication. She could have died." "But she didn't." "Because we caught you in time." Another long pause. "Dad, I'm begging you. These people are serious. If I don't pay them back, then you should have thought about that before you gambled money you didn't have. I'm your son." "No, Michael. You're a stranger who happens to share my DNA. My son would never have done what you did." "Please, Dad, I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll pay you back. You'll learn to live with the consequences of your choices." "I could go to prison. The social worker said they might file criminal charges." "They probably will." "How can you be so cold? How can you ask that question after planning our murders?" Click. Michael hung up. Margaret looked at me with concern. What if he really is in danger from the people he owes money to? Then he'll have to figure out how to solve that problem himself. "Robert, he's still our son." "No, Margaret. He was our son. Now he's a 43-year-old man who needs to learn what responsibility looks like." My phone rang again. Dr. Rodriguez calling back. "Mr. Powell, I have remarkable news. Since the story aired, we've received donations totaling $38,000 from community members who want to contribute to your foundation. Donations? People are inspired by your story. They want to help expand the foundation's reach. I looked at Margaret, who was smiling through her tears. Dr. Rodriguez, let's use every penny of those donations for additional scholarships. That could fund 3 more students for spring semester. Then let's fund 3 more students. After I hung up, Margaret reached for my hand. Michael was right about one thing, she said. What's that? You did destroy his life. His old life. The life where he thought he could take shortcuts and hurt people and still get what he wanted. And now he gets to build a new one, the hard way. The aftermath came swiftly. Tuesday morning's Denver Post featured our story on the front page of the Metro section. Retired professor donates $2.8 million after son's murder plot. The article included photos of Margaret and me, details about the scholarship criteria, and a sidebar about Colorado's elder abuse statistics. By noon, 3 television stations wanted follow-up interviews. By 2 p.m., the University of Colorado Denver reported over 200 scholarship inquiries. By 5 p.m., Michael was arrested. James Morrison called with the details. Robert, I thought you should know. Michael was taken into custody this afternoon on charges of elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. What happened? He tried to withdraw money from your bank account using the forged signature cards. Bank security cameras caught him attempting to access your safe deposit box. When confronted, he became belligerent and threatened bank employees. Threatened them how? He told the security guard that his parents were dying anyway, and he deserved their money. The guard called police. Margaret shook her head sadly. He's making it worse for himself. There's more, James continued. The district attorney's office wants to use Michael's case as an example in their elder abuse awareness campaign. They're calling it the most thoroughly documented case they've seen. What does that mean? It means Michael's facing significant prison time if convicted. 5 to 10 years, possibly more if they pursue the conspiracy charges. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that justice was being served. Sadness that my son had fallen so far. Wednesday brought an unexpected visitor. A young woman, maybe 25, knocked on our door at 9 a.m. She carried a manila folder and wore the nervous expression of someone delivering important news. Mr. and Mrs. Powell? I'm Jessica Chen, Sarah Chen's daughter. I'm a third-year law student at UC Denver. Jessica, what brings you by? I wanted to thank you personally and to tell you that I'm applying for your foundation scholarship. Margaret invited her in for coffee. My mom helped you establish the trust, Jessica explained, settling into our living room. When she told me the story, I had to meet you. Why? Because you turned something terrible into something beautiful. My family immigrated here when I was 12. My parents worked 3 jobs each so I could go to college. I understand what it means to have education be a gift, not an expectation. Tell us about your studies, Margaret said. Business law with an ethics concentration. I want to help families protect themselves from financial abuse. After hearing your story, I'm more committed to that goal than ever. I looked at this young woman, earnest, hardworking, grateful for opportunity, and thought about the contrast with Michael's entitled demands. Jessica, would you be interested in helping administer the Foundation Scholarship Program? Sir, we need someone who understands both the legal aspects and the personal impact of educational opportunity. Someone who can evaluate applications and ensure the money reaches students who truly deserve it. Her eyes brightened. I would be honored. After Jessica left, Margaret and I felt something we hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Thursday's mail brought a letter that surprised us both. Mr. and Mrs. Powell, it read. I'm writing from the Colorado State University Business School. We've heard about your foundation and would like to discuss expanding the scholarship program to include our campus. We have many deserving students who could benefit from your generosity. By Friday, we'd received similar letters from 3 other Colorado universities. Robert, Margaret said, reviewing the requests, we could help students across the entire state. With what money? The foundation is already fully allocated. What about the community donations Dr. Rodriguez mentioned? They're still growing. I called Dr. Rodriguez for an update. Mr. Powell, the community response has been overwhelming. We've received over $100,000 in donations since Monday's news story. 100,000? People are inspired by what you've done. They want to contribute to the cause. What kind of people? Everyone. Retired teachers who saw your story and wanted to help. Business owners who understand the value of ethical education. Families who've dealt with elder abuse themselves. That afternoon brought a call I didn't expect. Mr. Powell, this is Detective Maria Santos, Denver Police Department. I'm calling about your son's case. What about it? Michael wants to make a plea deal. He's willing to admit guilt on all charges in exchange for reduced prison time. What's the offer? 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, full restitution to any financial damages, and mandatory participation in gambling addiction treatment. What's the alternative? If he goes to trial and loses, he's looking at 8 to 12 years. What do you think he should do? That's not my decision, Mr. Powell, but I wanted you to know that he's been asking to speak with you. Asking to speak with me about what? He says he wants to apologize. I considered this. Detective Santos, has Michael shown any genuine remorse, or is he just trying to reduce his prison sentence? In my experience, Mr. Powell, it's usually both. That evening, Margaret and I discussed Michael's situation over dinner. Do you want to see him? She asked. I don't know. What would be the point? Maybe to give him a chance to do the right thing for once. Or maybe to give him another opportunity to manipulate us. Robert, what if he really has learned something from this? What if he hasn't? We sat in silence for several minutes. There's something else, I finally said. Detective Santos mentioned full restitution. Restitution for what? We didn't lose any money. Emotional damages? Maybe. Or maybe Michael has been lying about his financial situation all along. Saturday's newspaper provided the answer. Local man arrested for elder abuse had hidden assets, read the headline. The article revealed that Michael had been hiding money in offshore accounts while claiming financial desperation. His total assets were estimated at over $400,000. He lied about being broke, Margaret said, reading over my shoulder. He lied about everything. The phone rang. Sarah Chen calling with an update. Robert, you need to know something about Michael's plea negotiations. The prosecutors discovered he's been planning this for over a year. They found evidence that he researched inheritance law, elder abuse statutes, and life insurance payouts months before your surgery. This wasn't desperation, it was premeditation. Exactly, which means the plea deal might be off the table. Good. Robert, are you sure you don't want to see him before the trial? I looked at Margaret, who nodded encouragingly. One visit, but only to tell him exactly what I think about the choices he's made. The Denver County Jail visiting room felt like an appropriate setting for our final conversation. Cold fluorescent lights, metal tables bolted to the floor, guards watching every interaction, a place where consequences felt tangible and immediate. Michael looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit, older. The confident swagger he'd carried into Sarah's office was gone, replaced by something that might have been genuine remorse, or might have been calculated desperation. Dad, Mom, thank you for coming. We came to hear what you had to say, I replied. Nothing more. Michael nodded, accepting the boundaries I was setting. I want to apologize. For what specifically? For planning to hurt you, for hiding Mom's medication, for forging those documents, for lying about your financial situation. Michael's eyes widened. We know about the hidden accounts. We know this wasn't desperation. We know you planned this for over a year. His shoulders sagged. Yes, I planned it. Why? Because I wanted your life without earning it. I wanted your money without waiting for it. I wanted respect without deserving it. Margaret spoke for the first time. Michael, why didn't you just ask for help with your gambling debts? Because asking for help would have meant admitting I had a problem. Planning your deaths meant I could pretend I was just unlucky. And now? Now I'm sitting in jail, facing 12 years in prison because I was too proud to ask my parents for help with a gambling addiction. I studied my son's face, looking for signs of manipulation, for the calculating expression I'd learned to recognize over the past month. Instead, I saw something I hadn't seen from Michael in years: shame. "The prosecutor offered you a plea deal," I said. 2 years. "Are you going to take it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because taking the plea means admitting guilt and moving on. Going to trial means facing what I did publicly. Every piece of evidence, every recording, every lie." "That seems harder, not easier." "It is harder, but you taught me something about consequences, Dad. Real consequences, not shortcuts." Margaret reached across the table toward Michael's hands, then stopped herself. "What will you do when you get out?" "If I get out, the trial could go badly." "When you get out," she insisted, "I want to work with gambling addiction counselors, not just for treatment, but to help other families avoid what I put you through." "That's a nice sentiment, Michael. But what about practical matters? Where will you live? How will you support yourself?" "I'll figure it out, without expecting help from you." For the first time in our conversation, I felt something like pride in Michael. Not for what he'd done, but for what he seemed to be learning. "The foundation's helping its first students this semester," Margaret said. "I saw the news coverage. 15 full scholarships for spring. 18 now. Community donations keep growing." Michael smiled, and for a moment I saw the boy he'd once been. "That's wonderful. Really." "Does it bother you?" I asked, "knowing that money could have been yours?" 6 weeks ago, yes. It would have made me furious. But now," he paused, thinking carefully, "now I'm glad it's helping people who deserve it." "Why the change?" "Because sitting in jail gives you time to think about what you've become. And I became someone who tried to murder his parents for money. That's not someone who deserves a $2.8 million reward." The visiting room guard indicated 5 minutes remaining. "Michael," I said, "I need you to understand something. Regardless of how your trial goes, regardless of whether you serve 2 years or 12 years, your relationship with your mother and me has changed permanently." "I understand." "Do you? Because I'm not talking about punishment. I'm talking about trust. You can't earn back what you destroyed." "I know. We might have a relationship again someday, but it will be a different relationship, with different boundaries." "What kind of boundaries?" "No financial discussions, no inheritance expectations, no private visits to our home, no access to our medical information or legal documents." Margaret added, "If we see you again after your release, it will be in public places with other people present." "Until you prove over years that you've actually changed," I concluded. Michael nodded slowly. "Those seem like reasonable boundaries for someone who did what I did." "They're not negotiable boundaries, Michael. They're permanent boundaries." "I understand." The guard called time. As we prepared to leave, Michael said one more thing. "Dad, I know I don't have the right to ask anything from you, but could you do me one favor?" "What?" "When the foundation awards its scholarships each year, could you tell the students about choices and consequences? About how easy it is to lose everything when you stop respecting the people who love you?" I considered this request. Why? Because maybe my mistakes could help someone else avoid making them. You want your story to become a cautionary tale? I want my story to mean something besides just failure. Walking out of that jail, Margaret and I felt something we hadn't experienced in months. Closure. Not forgiveness. That would take much longer, if it came at all. But closure. An end to uncertainty. A beginning of whatever came next. That evening, I called Dr. Rodriguez with an idea. "Doctor, what if we added an ethical component to the scholarship program? A requirement that students take courses in business ethics and family financial responsibility." "That's an interesting addition, Mr. Powell." "Well, what sparked that idea?" "A conversation with someone who learned about consequences the hard way." 6 months later, the Powell Family Educational Trust had helped 48 students across Colorado. The community donations had grown to over $300,000, and Michael had been sentenced to 4 years in prison after a trial where every detail of his plan was presented as evidence. But the most important outcome was simpler. Margaret and I had reclaimed our dignity, our safety, and our right to decide who deserved our trust. Some inheritances are monetary, others are moral. I'm proud of the moral inheritance we're leaving behind. If you've watched this story because you're dealing with family manipulation or financial abuse, remember this. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. And it's never too late to establish boundaries that protect what you've spent a lifetime building. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and share your thoughts about family boundaries and consequences.